Bà lại cho cháu mượn cái chăn mỏng mỏng hôm qua ấy. Vâng. Đây à, này chắc ấm nước này. Của bà đã bị hỏng nguồn. Điện áp nó cao quá.
Đấy. Thế anh ấy làm hại tôi.
À thì
cãi nhau à?
không may mà. Ai muốn như thế đâu. À không, cháu không còn ấy đâu.
Này.
À,
đấy chị anh làm gì thế?
vâng vâng, cháu cho nó rộng rộng ra tí. Vâng. Bà siêu tầm được nhiều đồ cổ nhá.
Ngày xưa người ta bán nhiều chứ giờ hết rồi.
Vâng, bây giờ không còn nữa nha. Vâng, nhiều điện thoại thế. Đây. Ui giời.
Nếu mà không có cái bàn như này là người ta phải mang đồ đến để người ta để đấy.
Vâng.
Đúng không?
Đây gì bác? Bê về.
Bê về ấy.
Cái bê về thui.
Khi không thì là người ta phải mang thêm vào cái bàn.
Ba bà đi ba 2 lần cùng đâu ra nữa bà.
À.
Đúng không?
À.
Đi 1 lần thôi.
Thì mang về à?
Mang về.
Ôi giời.
Vác tivi về.
Mang tivi về.
Nhà mình là ưu tiên đấy.
Mang tivi về.
Bảo đi mấy lần thì bảo mấy trăm nghìn.
Hết tiền xăng rồi.
Đấy. Thế tôi bảo là cái không có cái bàn như này thì chịu, cũng mà mình phải mang. Phải mang tivi về.
Không về được.
À.
Đây em.
Có cái tivi thì về mình sẽ hộp với mà. Mình có cái hộp không mà bảo vào đấy đúng không đấy.
Không cần đi ô tô mà.
À, đi ô tô à?
Sau.
Bà ơi cho cháu xin mượn cái ổ lôi được không cơ?
Chắc thử chạy.
À thôi không cần nữa bà. Cháu định mượn cái ổ lôi để thử nhưng mà thôi.
Bác thử có gì?
Có thử rồi.
Có 13V không?
Có cả 250V luôn.
Chắc ăn thử đi, có mẹ mà thôi. Anh tư tưởng à?
Hả? Có.
Hôm qua thì nói vậy thì mấy người cũng bảo này là bị nguồn rồi.
Nguồn rồi.
Để bảo ra thì nó cũng này như thế.
À vâng. Ông. Đoạn này xong không vào.
Lắc lắc ấy.
Đúng rồi. Vào đấy.
Có kia phát nữa rồi bà.
Nhà tôi cháu không làm việc về kinh nghiệm nhưng mà nó ở Bắc Ninh cơ chú ạ.
Vâng.
Tiên không phải nó ở đây nhưng mà dễ vậy.
Vâng.
Nó lại sửa cho người ta nó định mình ở đây mình gọi người ta cách ở đây chi.
Vâng, thường
Mình biết là thế nào chứ là mình gọi cho ở đây chi. Điên thế thì nó lên đây rồi cái 100 cây số mà nó ở nhà nó đang làm việc vậy.
tưởng vào nó hỗ trợ nó gửi về thì mình đỡ tiền.
Có giá rồi lo cái gì.
Nè.
Cháu nó đặt cho người ta cái tivi này chi.
Và
tôi có biết cái nào đâu.
đây.
Cháu chỉ
Lúc
có cái
nó
tivi.
mua nó bảo là mẹ cứ lấy cái đấy chi.
Và
Xong tôi ra bảo đây là con tôi bảo lấy cái như này rồi nó mới ấy chi. Tôi không biết cái gì.
Cháu chỉ có tivi vip quá đấy. Mẹ nó quá bảo hành 5 tháng rồi. Không có bị như vậy không ai bảo hành.
cũng không bảo hành
Cái
à?
này không bảo hành.
À vâng.
Nó bảo là mình tự làm hỏng.
À, từ từ để cháu cắm cắm dây nguồn với lại cắm cổng quang cổng kết cho mình.
Đây nó không phải cho rồi, nó bảo là đấy là ông làm là dập điện, nó bảo vậy thì thôi, để cháu bảo tôi ấy cho.
Ui giời, mình lau rẻ ướt rồi, rẻ ướt đây không được lau lên phép mà lau lên màn hình tivi đó, chết màn hình tivi đấy.
Không, bác lau dưới này thôi mà.
Vâng.
Không lau ở rẻ ướt đâu. Bác nếu mà lau bác chỉ lấy cái giấy thôi.
Vâng, giấy khô thôi.
Alo. Ai đấy? Sáng nay bán hết mẹ nữa rồi không? Sáng nay bán hết rồi. Bác chú băng thì nó còn đang lẫn lộn đâu, chứ bó, cả chiều nay mới bó.
Quy lẹt.
Có nghĩa là 30, 25, 20 nó còn lẫn lộn đâu, cả chiều nay mới bó. Thì sao?
Điều khiển tivi nhà mình đâu nhỉ ông nhỉ?
Đếm à? Thì đếm đi. Giờ nó chốt như vậy thì giờ cái ấy nó lại mua linh tinh nữa bạn.
The air in On's small apartment thousands of miles from home often felt thick with a longing that no amount of video calls could fully dissipate. He would sit at his worn desk, textbooks open, the glow of his laptop screen illuminating his tired face, but his mind would frequently drift back to the familiar sights and sounds of his village in Vietnam. The scent of his mother's cooking, the gentle teasing from his younger sister, Lynn, the comfortable silence shared with his father as they watched the sunset. These were the memories that fueled his determination as he navigated the demanding world of studying electronics abroad. Life was a relentless cycle of lectures, late-night study sessions fueled by cheap coffee, and the ever-present pressure of making ends meet. His scholarship covered tuition, but the cost of living in a foreign city was substantial, and the responsibility of sending money back home weighed heavily on his young shoulders. Every extra hour was spent working part-time, washing dishes in a bustling restaurant, tutoring younger students in math, even taking on odd tech jobs whenever he could find them. Each hard-earned dollar was carefully budgeted, a significant portion earmarked for his parents' needs and Lynn's education. He dreamt of the day he could alleviate their financial burdens completely, allowing his parents to finally rest and ensuring Lynn had every opportunity to pursue her own dreams. Despite the exhaustion that often clung to him, Anne cherished his regular video calls with his family. These moments were his lifeline, a precious window into their world. He loved seeing his mother's warm smile, the way his father's eyes would crinkle at the corners when he told a joke, and the boundless energy of Lynn, who would often chatter excitedly about her school day or the latest happenings in the village. It was during one such call, as the usual pleasantries were exchanged and laughter filled the digital space between them, that Lynn casually mentioned the state of their beloved television. "Oh, and brother," she had said, her usual cheerful tone slightly subdued, "the big TV in the living room, it's not working anymore." A wave of disappointment washed over Anne. He knew how much that television meant to his family. It was more than just a device for entertainment. It was a focal point of their evenings, a source of shared joy and relaxation. He pictured his father settling into his favorite armchair after a long day, the familiar glow of the screen reflecting in his kind eyes as he watched the news or, more importantly, his beloved football matches. "What happened, Lynn?" Anne asked, his voice betraying his concern. He leaned closer to the screen, his brow furrowed. Lynn, with the innocent detail of a child, described the frustrating issue. "It just stopped working. First, the picture would flicker, you know, like it was trying to decide if it wanted to show anything at all. Then, it would just go black. Sometimes," she added, wrinkling her nose, "there's this weird buzzing sound, like a big angry bee trapped inside." His parents, who had been listening quietly, chimed in with their own observations. His mother mentioned that it had been happening intermittently for a few weeks, a brief flicker here and there that they had initially dismissed. His father added that the buzzing sound seemed to come from the back of the television, and sometimes there was a faint burning smell, which had understandably worried them. As they recounted the symptoms, Anne's mind, now trained in the intricacies of electronics, began to work. The flickering screen suggested a potential issue with the power supply, struggling to deliver a consistent flow of energy. The complete blackness and the buzzing sound could indicate a more serious problem, perhaps with the mainboard or even a short circuit. The faint burning smell was particularly concerning, hinting at a component that might have overheated and failed. Across the digital divide, in the quiet solitude of his apartment, Anne felt a surge of determination. He couldn't be there physically to fix it, but he could use his knowledge and resources to help. After the video call ended, he immediately immersed himself in research. He meticulously searched online, looking for troubleshooting guides and forums related to their specific 55-inch Samsung model. He cross-referenced the symptoms his family had described with common television issues. Hours turned into a late night as Ann delved deeper into the technical specifications of their TV. He identified potential replacement parts, the power supply board and the main board, and began searching for reputable online vendors who shipped to Vietnam. It was a painstaking process, requiring him to carefully compare prices, read customer reviews, and verify the compatibility of each component. He knew that making a mistake could be costly and would further delay the repair. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he located a supplier who had both the power supply board and the main board in stock at a reasonable price. He hesitated for a moment, considering ordering both to be safe, but the cost was significant. Based on the symptoms, he leaned towards the power supply board being the more likely culprit. With a deep breath, he made the decision and placed the order, his fingers hovering over the confirmation button before finally clicking. He included detailed instructions for his parents on how to safely store the part upon arrival. He knew the shipping would take time, but he felt a sense of accomplishment, having taken the first crucial step. Weeks crawled by, each day filled with anticipation during Ann's subsequent calls home. He would eagerly inquire about the arrival of the package, his heart skipping a beat each time his parents said it hadn't arrived yet. He imagined the replacement part making its long journey across continents, a small piece of hope traveling towards his family. Finally, the call came, his mother's voice filled with relief as she confirmed the safe arrival of the package. Now came the next hurdle, finding someone trustworthy and capable of installing the new component. Ann knew his parents, while resourceful in many ways, weren't familiar with the intricate workings of modern electronics. He needed to find a reliable technician in their area who could handle the repair quickly and efficiently, especially with his father's football match fast approaching. This is where fate, in the form of an algorithm and a shared interest in technology, intervened. One evening, while taking a much-needed break from his studies, Ann found himself scrolling through YouTube. His search history was filled with terms like Samsung TV Repair Vietnam, Fix Broken TV at Home, and Electronics Technician near his hometown. It was during one of these searches that a video title caught his eye, Tech Repair Guy, bringing old TVs back to life in your neighborhood. Intrigued, Ann clicked on the video. It featured a friendly-looking technician, whom he later learned was one of our team members, expertly diagnosing and repairing an older model television in a customer's home. The video was well-produced, clearly explaining the repair process in simple terms. What truly resonated with Ann was the mention of our service area. The technician specifically listed several towns and villages that were surprisingly close to his own hometown. A surge of excitement coursed through him. Could this be the answer he was looking for? He spent the next hour engrossed in our channel, watching several more videos. He was impressed by our commitment to repairing rather than replacing, our dedication to helping people get the most out of their existing technology. He saw testimonials from satisfied customers, many of whom praised our professionalism, our fair prices, and our willingness to travel to even the most remote locations. He noticed a genuine passion for our work, a sense that we weren't just fixing TVs, but we were also helping people stay connected and entertained. Without hesitation, Ann found our contact information and sent us a detailed message. He explained his situation, the broken Samsung 55-inch TV, the replacement power supply board he had already shipped to his parents, and the urgency of his request. He emphasized his father's anticipation for an upcoming crucial football match, a game he had been looking forward to for weeks and desperately wanted to watch on their repaired screen. He shared his concern for his parents and his desire to make things right for them from so far away. The sincerity and urgency in his message were unmistakable. We, the team behind Tech Repair Guy, received Ann's message with a sense of purpose and empathy. His story resonated deeply with our own values, the importance of family, the desire to help others, and the satisfaction of using our skills to make a difference. We checked the location of his parents' village on our service map. It was indeed within our reach, although it was situated about 30 kilometers away, a journey that would take us through some challenging and less traveled terrain. We discussed Ann's request as a team. We understood the urgency, especially given the upcoming football match. We also recognized the effort Ann had made from so far away to diagnose the problem and procure the replacement part. We felt a responsibility to see this through for him and his family. We agreed to take the job, scheduling it for the earliest possible day, The day we embarked on our journey to help An's family dawned with the familiar humidity of the region. The sun climbed quickly in the sky, promising another hot day. We gathered our essential tools, our diagnostic equipment, soldering irons, screwdrivers of all shapes and sizes, and a collection of spare cables and connectors. We loaded everything into our trusty van, a slightly weathered but ultimately reliable vehicle that had become our steadfast companion on countless repair missions across the countryside. The initial part of the drive was smooth, along the main roads that snaked through vibrant green rice paddies, the air filled with the sounds of early morning activity. We passed through small towns, their markets already bustling with vendors selling fresh produce and local delicacies. As we drove, we talked about An's story, admiring his dedication to his family and feeling a sense of anticipation about meeting them. As we ventured further away from the main thoroughfare, the paved roads gradually gave way to rougher, unsealed tracks. The landscape began to transform, the open fields replaced by denser vegetation. Soon, we found ourselves navigating through the fringes of a forest, the sunlight filtering through the dense canopy in dappled patterns on the dusty track ahead. The air grew cooler and filled with the sounds of nature, the chirping of unseen birds, the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. The 30 kilometers stretched out before us, feeling longer than the map suggested. The track climbed steadily, winding its way through a series of rolling hills. There were moments when the van struggled on the steeper inclines, the tires momentarily losing traction on the loose gravel. We had to engage the four-wheel drive, the engine working harder as we navigated the uneven terrain. Along the way, we passed small, isolated settlements, clusters of houses nestled amongst the trees. We saw villagers tending to their small farms, their faces tanned by the sun, their movements deliberate and unhurried. We exchanged friendly nods and smiles, a silent acknowledgement of our shared journey through this rural landscape. We crossed several small streams, the van bumping gently as we traversed makeshift wooden bridges. The air was fresh and clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Despite the challenges of the journey, there was a certain beauty to the remoteness of this place, a sense of tranquility that was a world away from the hustle and bustle of the city. As we continued our ascent into the hills, we couldn't help but think about An's family waiting for us. We imagined their anticipation, their hope that we could bring their television back to life before the important football match. The thought of the joy we could potentially bring them spurred us on, making the bumpy ride and the winding paths feel less significant. Finally, after what seemed like a considerable amount of time, we reached the village. It was a small, peaceful hamlet, with houses scattered amongst the lush greenery, smoke gently curling from the chimneys of some. Following the detailed directions Anne had provided, we navigated the narrow paths between the houses until we arrived at our destination, a modest but well cared for home with a small garden bursting with colorful flowers. There was a sense of quiet serenity about the place. As we parked our van, the front door of the house opened, and we were greeted by Anne's parents. Their faces, etched with the gentle lines of age and experience, radiated warmth and welcome. They were clearly relieved to see us, their eyes lighting up with a mixture of hope and curiosity. A young girl, who we immediately recognized as Lynn from Anne's descriptions, shyly peeked out from behind her mother, her eyes wide with anticipation and a hint of nervousness. They greeted us with genuine hospitality, their smiles radiating kindness. They ushered us inside their home, their gratitude evident in their every gesture and word. They offered us cool water and a plate of freshly picked local fruits, their generosity touching us deeply. We could immediately sense the strong bond and love that permeated their family. The living room was simple but immaculately clean and cozy. The large, silent form of the broken Samsung television sat on its stand, a dark rectangle awaiting our expertise. Anne's parents gestured towards it with a mixture of sadness and hope. They told us how much they missed watching their favorite programs together, especially Anne's father, who was eagerly looking forward to the upcoming football match with his friends. We assured them that we would do our best to fix it. Anne's father carefully retrieved the package containing the replacement power supply board that had arrived from overseas. He handled it with reverence, knowing that this small component held the key to restoring their entertainment. We laid out our tools on a small table, the familiar array of instruments a comforting sight to us. Years of experience in diagnosing and repairing electronics guided our hands as we began the process. We carefully turned the television around and started to remove the screws from the back panel, each click echoing in the quiet room. As we worked, An's parents and Lin watched with rapt attention, their eyes following our every move. They asked us questions about the repair process, curious to understand the inner workings of the television. We patiently explained each step, using simple language and avoiding technical jargon. We could feel their hope growing with each component we examined. We carefully disconnected the various cables and wires, taking note of their positions. We located the power supply board, identifying it by its distinctive components and markings. We could see some signs of damage, a slightly bulging capacitor and a darkened area on the circuit board, confirming An's initial diagnosis. With precision, we disconnected the faulty power supply board and gently lifted it out. An's father watched intently, a flicker of understanding in his eyes as he saw the damaged component. We then carefully unpacked the new power supply board, comparing it to the old one to ensure it was an exact match. The installation of the new board required careful alignment and the secure connection of several cables. We worked methodically, ensuring that every connection was tight and correct. Lin, meanwhile, sat quietly on a nearby cushion, her gaze fixed on the television, her anticipation palpable. Finally, after what seemed like a focused but relatively short period, the new power supply board was securely in place. We carefully reconnected all the cables, double-checking each connection to avoid any errors. Then, with a sense of anticipation, we began to reassemble the back panel of the television, securing it with the screws we had removed earlier. The moment of truth had arrived. We carefully lifted the television back onto its stand, plugged the power cord into the wall socket, and held our breath as we reached for the power button on the remote control. A small red standby light illuminated on the front of the television, followed by the familiar chime and logo of Samsung appearing on the screen. A collective sigh of relief and joy filled the room. An's parents exchanged delighted glances, and Lin clapped her hands with excitement. We connected the television to their antenna cable, and a clear, vibrant picture filled the screen. The colors were rich and saturated, the image sharp and detailed. An's father immediately reached for the remote and began to navigate through the channels, a wide grin spreading across his face. He stopped at a sports channel, a replay of an exciting football match playing on the screen. His eyes lit up with genuine pleasure. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice filled with heartfelt emotion as he turned to us. "You have no idea how much this means to me. I was so worried I would miss the big game tomorrow." Lin chimed in, her voice full of excitement. "Now Papa can cheer for his team." We spent some more time with the family, fine-tuning the settings and ensuring that everything was working perfectly. They shared stories about An, their pride in his hard work and his love for them shining through their words. We felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that we had been able to help them in a meaningful way, bridging the distance created by technology and bringing a little bit of joy back into their lives. As the afternoon sun began to cast long shadows across the hills outside, it was time for us to pack up and leave. An's parents insisted on giving us a bag filled with local fruits and some homemade snacks as a token of their gratitude, their generosity truly humbling. We bid them farewell, their warm smiles and heartfelt thanks a reward in themselves. As we drove back along the winding tracks, the journey felt less arduous, our spirits lifted by the successful outcome of our mission. We knew that somewhere across the world, Anne would be receiving good news, and that thought brought a sense of quiet satisfaction. Later that evening, we received a message from Anne. His parents had called him, their voices filled with elation as they described the repaired television and how happy Anne's father was to be able to watch his football match. Anne expressed his deepest gratitude for our help, telling us how much it meant to him to know that his family could once again enjoy watching television together. This experience served as a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the profound impact that technology can have on our lives, bridging distances and bringing people together. It reinforced our belief in the value of our work at Tech Repair Guy, not just fixing broken devices, but also mending connections and bringing moments of joy to families, one repair at a time. And sometimes, the most fulfilling journeys are the ones that take us off the beaten path, through forests and hills, to make a tangible difference in the lives of others.